got some great topics tonight to go over. Welcome, everyone. This is your first time joining in. My name is Tina. I am a happiness coach, and I help people go from being in a dark place to uh, happiness. And I do this with tools that I practice on a daily basis, some days more than others, and today is one of those days. And so I'm going to share with you some things that I did today dealing with frustration and anger and how to move through that, because as we go through our healing journey, um, there's going to be times when we're doing emotional work and it's going to feel exhausting. Frankly, emotional work, why people avoid it so much is because it takes a lot of energy, and you're paying a huge debt off of stuff that you have stored in your body. So sometimes it can be fairly uncomfortable sitting in those emotions and dealing with those things, and knowing how to process them and to be able to get through it so that you can get to a point of happiness. Happiness isn't like, oh, I've finally arrived and this is where I'm going to stay and I'm never going to get upset again. No, you will get upset. There will be shit that pisses you off on a regular basis, especially if you're an entrepreneur, and especially if you're in your own healing journey and you're also trying to run a business and do a bunch of other things, right? So it can be challenging when these things come up, and being able to work through those things is a key. So, and now it's also going to take a little bit of a difference of understanding where you're at in your journey and what kind of things that you need to work on. So, and there's a bit of a continuum that I'm going to kind of go through here. So on one end we have people pleasers. And then on this one, you have angry or wrath. So if you're dealing with angry feelings and you come, so a lot of times when we go through abusive situations, we either tend to gravitate towards being like the abuser and being maybe angry and outbursts and stuff like that, or we might try to be the complete opposite of that abuser that we had. And so it depends on the way we go tends to be more aligned with however effective it was for you. So if being a people pleaser kind of kept you safe in that moment, then you might default to that kind of method. If being angrier than the abuser kind of kept you safe and made them think twice about messing with you, then you might have defaulted to that kind of pathway. So whichever area that you're at, obviously, you're going to have a different path to happiness, right? So if you're on this side and you blow up and you have a hair trigger and you're looking for fights all the time, your pathway to happiness is going to be different than this person's pathway to happiness. So this person, which is kind of where I come from, although I can default to this in the right circumstances, but, and I have to watch myself in certain ways, right? But majority of the time, I default to the people pleaser side. And for me, sometimes the recovery path this way is to become angry, because, you know, staying silent and, you know, staying calm isn't always necessarily the right thing. And when you start your recovery journey and you're first starting these new behaviors, you kind of have to go to this other extreme that feels very uncomfortable. And because it's new, it's like, it's the same as working out in a gym, where you can't just start out with the biggest, heaviest weights. You have to kind of work your way up to them. Otherwise, you're going to end up hurting yourself. So Now, setting boundaries and getting angry about stuff is something that a people pleaser actually needs to do. Because if not, they default, they don't say anything, they keep the peace, they, stay quiet about things. Um, and then they end up getting resentful, or they get taken advantage of, and then they feel victimized, and that's not a good thing. So having to change this perspective and do things that are different. We can't continue to do the same things that we've always done. We have to start to do things differently. So if you're on the angry side, maybe learning to remain calm or quiet and not reactive might be better tools to help you find that happiness for yourself. Whereas the other side, people pleasers, you need to speak up, you need to voice it. Now, when you first start doing this stuff, you might say no at a level 20 and you really needed a 2 or 3, right? Saying no thank you. So learning how to do this and then adjusting and not beating yourself up if you don't quite do it right the first time. Okay? Learning to understand that there's a progress, not perfection kind of model to go with this in order to help find that balance. Okay? So some of the things that I will do when I have a lot of angry energy, whatever that may be, is number one, working out. So if I have a lot of excess energy and I can't deal with it, I have to do something physical. Now that can be an actual workout, or that can be housework, or just doing something physical to channel that energy into something productive. Okay? Change up your routine too. So sometimes just kind of going through the same old is just can be frustrating in and of itself. And it's like now you're angry because you're just doing the same old thing day in, day out. Changing up the routine a little bit, maybe it's like, it can be something small too. It's like, okay, I normally have eggs for breakfast and coffee. And today I changed it to I had oatmeal and a piece of toast. So you can kind of change little things, start to change up your routine, try to implement different things to just kind of give you a different perspective. It's another way of looking at things from a different perspective. It's like if you look at the problem like this and I'm face on like this, I have one perspective. Now if I just turn around, I have a completely different perspective. I'm seeing something different, and I get, even though I'm still in the same room, still same situation, just because I shifted my perspective, I now see different things that weren't readily transparent before. So now I can start to look at things in a different way. So a change in routine is one of the small ways that you can kind of do that. So that could be getting up earlier. That could be changing what you eat. Those kind of things. Now, usually if I'm angry, I will, there's two types, okay? So if I'm in the reactive and I'm in the fuck it stage, I might default to, old behaviors, might get into the chocolate like I did last night, so I was a little reactive, and that's okay. Understanding that it's progress, not perfection. I didn't do all the things that I normally do. So yes, I had a slip. That's okay. It was better than the alternative at the time. So, now, some people will say, that's making excuses. Yeah, it is. I'm not going to deny it. It is making excuses. But that's okay. Because before I would operate in a way that it's like I wouldn't give myself a break. So part of my recovery is to allow myself to give myself a break. Now, you've got to balance that, right? You've got to balance that. So there's give and take there. But the thing is who gets to decide that information? You do. somebody else would come along and say something to me, and I'd be all over the place. I'd be like, oh no, I have to do it because they think I should do it that way. Now I have to learn to sit in my own decisions of going, yep, I made that mistake. Guess what? I'm a full-grown adult, and I get to make the mistakes, and I get to take all of the consequences for them, even if those aren't good. And we shouldn't be afraid of that, because if it ends up hurting us again and we're like, ah, shit, I didn't want to do that, then we will learn, right? Because some of us are a little bit stubborn and a little bit thick-headed, so we need that pain in order to grow. So it's not a bad thing. And trying to prevent somebody from feeling the pain that they need to feel is actually enabling, and it actually delays their progress. So now you don't want to inflict the pain unnecessarily, but allowing them to experience the consequences of their actions is something that has to happen, and being able to overcome that is actually rewarding, right? So it's like, you screwed up, okay, you can go down the road of beating yourself up, totally within your frame of reference, if that's the path that you want to do. And when you get tired of doing that, then you can choose a different route. I've gone down both paths. I've chosen different routes. So today was one of the days I'm actually quite pleased with myself, because I did choose some different routes. And so I did change my workout. I changed my routine a little bit. I made intentional choices about, instead of being reactive. So this morning, where I was like, I should have my eggs. That's another thing, is telling myself I should do something is not good. Because it is setting myself up for resistance. So I could change that to saying I get to do something, which is better, or I can sit with it and I can say, you know what? I don't actually have to do that thing. I don't actually have to do it. Who's telling me I have to do it? Me? Okay, why? Is that something that is really, really important to me, or is this something I'm flexible on changing? Because we all have that ability. And so I was like, you know what? I want to have something different. And I had toast and I had oatmeal this morning. So, and that was actually satisfying. But before I did that, I made sure to ask myself, what is it that I truly want? What do I really, really want? And I thought for a minute, and that's what I came up with, and it was actually satisfying. So that helped mitigate some of the anger as well. Then I realized, okay, I need to do some journaling, because the other thing that I'll do is, before I deal with anger, I will try to make sure I've had a good rest. I don't try to deal with anger if I haven't had enough sleep and I'm feeling hungry, angry, lonely, tired, sick. If I'm one of those 5, I'm going to remedy those 5 things and then see if I'm still upset about something. If I am still upset about something, that is my cue that I need to try and communicate. Now, sometimes what I'll do before I try to communicate those feelings is I will write them out, so that I have clarity as to what is really going on here for me. Because sometimes it's a lot of the anger and frustration, you have to dump and purge that out and get that out of your system, because oftentimes it is just fear. It is false evidence appearing real. And when I get that out of my system, I can look at it more objectively and kind of go, okay, you know what? Yeah, this is me being reactive. This isn't really how I feel. That's just like, that was how I feel in the moment, and it was a reaction. It's not truly how I feel, because now that I've kind of vented that issue out, I can kind of, oh, you know what, yeah, I do actually feel better, and I can now see how I can deal with this situation in a more constructive manner, and I can see it from a different perspective. So it's really, really beneficial when you do your journaling to make sure that it's as no holds barred as possible, so that you can get a really clear picture, because you can't really solve the problem if you aren't, hello, hello Otter, welcome. You can't really solve the problem if you aren't actually dealing with reality, right? So if you're censoring yourself while you're journaling, that's not going to help you. It's not going to benefit you. So it's really important to get out as much as you can so that you can see it clearer and see it from a fresh perspective. Okay? Um, and measure your progress, not the perfection, right? Because if before you used to blow up and punch a hole in the wall, and this time you just blew up and you didn't punch a hole in the wall, then that is progress. If you never say anything when somebody upsets you and you just, go and bitch to somebody else, if this time you didn't go bitch to somebody else and maybe you still haven't spoke up, but you did journaling, then that's better. Okay, so it's progress, not perfection, and at least know that you're heading in the right direction for being able to get yourself onto a path of happiness by dealing with anger and frustration in healthier ways. Okay. And the thing that you have to keep in mind too is that if you don't deal with anger or frustration, then left unattended, what ends up happening is that over time will turn into depression. And depression is anger turned inward. So you've had angry feelings that you've needed to express, or maybe you expressed in a bad way that caused more problems. So then you feel guilty and then you turn that inward because now it feels like because the way that you expressed your anger, it's now invalidated because you went over the top with the way that you expressed it. And then what ends up happening is you feel guilty. That sets you up for a cycle that you don't actually express your anger the next time it comes up when it's a small thing, and you hold it in and you hold it in and you hold it in, and then you blow up again, and then you have this whole shame cycle that ends up kind of circling around instead of being able to walk through that when it's a smaller issue and being able to deal with it before you get to the blow up stage. And I used to have to deal with that. So now I practice some non-reactive time of making sure that, okay, I've made sure I'm not hungry, I'm not angry, I'm not lonely, I'm not tired, and I'm not sick. I've taken care of those issues. Okay, this is still bugging me. I need to talk about it. I need to say something. I need to journal and then get to that point. Okay? Now, when these things come up, you also have to look at if you're being more susceptible to being angry or things are happening, you have to take a look at what kind of changes have been going on in your life. Because a lot of times change, even if it's good change, is very disruptive to our nervous system. And if we're not aware of what's going on with us, then we're more likely to be reactive. So, and if you've been through abuse like I have, then you might also be prone to disassociation, not being able to sit with those feelings in your body. You tend to be in your head a lot and not really paying attention to what's going on. So one of the things that I did realize, I'm like, oh, you've actually, a couple of days ago, you implemented a change to actually get up early, and that has been affecting your sleep. Your sleep hasn't been as, I've been getting better sleep, but it's also still a change with my body, and it's something that I have to be aware of that I'm still adjusting to. So when we make big changes, there tends to be like a backlash to pull us back into old behaviors. And so being patient with ourselves as we adjust to the new way is really important, and being aware of it, because sometimes we get caught off guard, and then what ends up happening is we don't make the connection with, oh, I made this change and now I'm having all these other reactions, these emotions coming up, and you don't correlate that, oh, I made this change to getting up and now I'm tired all the time, and maybe it's not that I'm depressed or angry, I'm just still adjusting to the change. Oh, okay. That takes it down a notch. That makes it less of a big emotional trauma thing that you have to deal with, and kind of you can deal with it a little bit more logically, a little bit calmer, and kind of go, oh, okay, that makes sense now. Okay, I just have to wait out these emotions and adjust to the change and be aware of what's going on, what's coming up for me. Hey, Alfred, good to see you. Um, so another thing that I will do is meditation. Now, I do not do meditation while I'm in that state of anger. Maybe some people can, but I need to purge out, get that stuff out of my system in order to then be able to fill up with meditation. So, a couple of things that I did today. So one other thing that I did was changing. Hey. Yes, definitely. Favorite regular. Welcome back, Alfred. So changing up your routine. So a couple of other things that I did is I tried to read something that was more mentally challenging. So it was more financial kind of book, and I ended up doing that so that I can redirect my focus into something more productive, more stimulating for my mind. And what I also found then was when I tried to do that, I actually was tired. So some of that is resistance to the changes, the emotional changes that are going on. And if you find that you need that sleep, then take that sleep. I remember somebody saying one time that if you're meditating and you fall asleep, then the answer that you were looking for is you needed sleep. It's like, novel, right? It's amazing. So I did do a meditation, and as I was doing the meditation, I was like, it reignited the frustration because I was trying to redirect my focus to something else. But what I realized by doing that, it was a defense mechanism. It's like, because a lot of times when I get angry, I get defensive, and it's a fear reaction, right? It's like, oh, this thing's not going to happen. Ah, screw it. I'm just going to go do this. I'm going to go cut off my nose to spite my face, right? I'm terrible at that. So when I realized what was going on, I was like, okay, I'm being defensive. I'm going to try and do this other thing instead. And the other thing that I did do in giving myself some permission to slow down a little bit, because everything that I was trying to do felt like trying to run through water, and it was even more exhausting. So, and part of my recovery, just like this, is normally I just push, 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 push. Don't feel anything, shove the feelings down, just push, keep going. Don't stop, right? Never rest. And never give yourself a break. You just have to push through it because you have no choice, right? Hey, Edgar, Esker, welcome. It's evening here for me. So for me, changing that to kind of go, okay, give yourself that downtime. I realized I was tired as I was trying to do this reading. And so I leaned my chair back, and I was able to take a little nap, and I wrapped my arms around me. And I was kind of drifting in and out of sleep, and it was a bit of a meditation as well. And one of the things that was really cool that I thought was interesting is, first of all, I had more visualizations for the things that I was wanting to move towards rather than being in that fear state. I was like, oh, okay, so I kept having these visual images popping up. And then I also had this voice in my head as I was wrapping my arms around me. And it says, and the voice was kind of frustrated, annoyed, but still loving and supportive at the same time. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. But it said to me, it says, I love you. Do you fucking hear me? I love you. And I was like, nah. And it's like, oh my God. And then the voice got louder. It's like, will you stop it? I love you. I freaking love you. Can you just accept that? It's like, um, okay, so random voice. So I was like, okay, this is something that was actually really, really good for me to actually go through. If I hadn't taken that time to slow down, if I hadn't taken that time to have that nap and give myself what it was that I actually needed, I needed to give myself a little hug, and I needed to be supportive of myself. And those are really good things. Those are really good at the healing journey and where I needed to be. Because I too often will default to the just push through, be harder, stronger, faster, better, all that kind of stuff. But you can't drive a car with a foot on the gas and a foot on the brake, right? That keeps you stuck. So recognizing and being in your body enough to understand what it is that you need, and allow yourself to make the mistakes because you're not used to being in your body. It's 45, right, Gavin? That's an awesome question. What's 1 + 1? What the fuck, dude? Yeah. I'm not in the mood for this shit today. And look at that, I just set a boundary. Yeah. So, there we go. No, not in people pleaser mode today. So, being able to be grounded in your body and understand. Hey, Peter. It's good to have some regulars here. Seeing the happiness coach lose it. Sometimes that's what you gotta do, right? Especially if you're somebody that won't say shit when you have a mouthful of it. So learning to speak up and learning to say, hey, that's not cool, I'm not putting up with this shit, is really important, right? So, and this is how you get to measure your own success of what is good for you. Other people aren't going to like it. Some might like it, some might not like it, but having it more from an internal focus of, is this actually working for me? Is this serving me? And that's an important piece of being able to measure your progress, right? Of understanding what it is that you actually need, what is peaceful and harmonious to your own body, right? And if you make mistakes, it's like, so there's certain times of the month, chocolate becomes very fucking important to me, and if you mess with it, you will get the horns. And other times, once I'm through that time, I'm good. I'm like, I don't need it. It's not an issue, right? But there are certain times where it is very important, and somebody could get hurt if I don't have that. Now, I know, there's probably people out there going, no, that's just an addiction, and you're giving yourself excuses. I'm like, yeah, uh-huh. You're right. You're absolutely right. And so, I am allowed to do what it is I need to do for me, even if it's wrong. You are allowed to do what is right for you, even if it is wrong. Because I have faith that if it is wrong and it does not actually work for you, and it actually harms you, you are going to pay attention to that, and you'll be like, I'm not going to put my hand on the stove because it is hot. And this is burning my hand and I don't like it. Or you can do that, and if you feel some type of way about it, then it's something that is a signal for you to look at, for you to change, to understand it. And I'm not going to deprive you of the learning that it is that you need, because I'm going to afford you the dignity and the respect to know that you will be able to learn your lessons, whatever it is that. I don't know if you absolutely need to make that mistake. If you need to make that mistake, if I try to prevent it, it's often going to delay your growth, your healing. So I allow people to make their mistakes. I will caution. I may say, hey, you may want to watch out for something. But I have a rule of thumb that I try to say it once. If I try to say it more than once, then I'm actually trying to control. And the only person I should be trying to control is myself. When I'm trying to focus on others and try to control others, that's where I'm going to get myself into trouble, and I'm going to set myself up for unmet expectations, which are resentments, premeditated resentments, and then I get back into that angry, resentful kind of wrath situation. So I don't want to do that. So being able to work through these things, understand these things, and deal with the anger, frustration in a way that is good for you. And it's going to be a balancing act, right? There will be times where it's like, you know, you lose your shit and you need to calm it down a bit. And then there's other times where you need to speak up and you need to set boundaries. Whatever it is that you need to do, you need to find that balance for yourself. And sometimes in the process of trying to find the balance, like imagine two little scales and you got two little pieces on either side, and it's like, oh, are they exactly proportioned? Most of the time, no. There's a little bit of trial and error. There's a little bit of like, oh, wow, that was way too far. That was way heavier. I need a whole lot more on this side to balance things out. But you get to decide what it is that you need to be able to do. And as you learn that process of adjustment, that's where you start to develop the strength, and you can now start to eyeball. It's like, oh, okay, this is this much, and these are fairly balanced. Same thing with artwork. As you go to learn to balance things out, like whether it's, I mix up a lot of paints and stuff like that, and I don't have to measure anything. I don't have to, I can tell by gauging it. And I don't beat myself up. It's like, oh, okay, this consistency of this is still a little too thick. It needs a bit more water. Oh shit, now I've added too much water and I need to add a little bit more of the paint or the glue. Oh, thank you so much, Peter. Appreciate the roses. So sweet. So sweet. Thank you. So as you go through this process, there is a balancing act, and know that each time that you make that mistake and it's not quite perfect, you're just starting to learn the process of being able to gauge how much you need for that particular situation. Do you need to, you know, yell at somebody, or do you need to just say, you know what, this isn't good, we need to talk about this kind of thing. Aw, Peter, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Always giving the gifts and the roses. And look at that, we hit the live goal again. Awesome, thank you. Awesome. So guys, learning, does this make sense to you guys, the balancing act and being able to understand that there's different paths that we have to go through as we're dealing with this journey, and recognizing that it's progress, not perfection, and being able to celebrate what it is that was progress for you in this particular day. And even that in itself changes based on what your capacity is, right? You know, your 100% might actually be half of what it was yesterday, right? Maybe yesterday you had a lot of energy, you felt amazing, and you gave like 110%, you went crazy and you got all this stuff done and you were really good. And then the next day you're not feeling so great, and now your 100% is maybe at half capacity, but you still gave your 100%. So as I was going through my day today, I know I needed a lot more breaks. I needed a lot more rest periods for multiple reasons. And so I gave them to myself. I gave myself permission to take those. And by doing that, it allowed me to take those rests, and then I could take a few more steps forward. And I was able to get the same things done that I was able to do the previous day. So I was still able to post my videos. I was still able to post my artwork. I was still able to do the editing and stuff like that. And I still processed some of my emotions from the healing work. Yay! So I did pretty good. And I made healthier food choices today. So I have to give myself credit for the things that I've done right, focusing on that and using that as a way to build steps to the next one. Success breeds success. The more you focus on that, the more you will move towards that. And it's okay as you're going through your healing journey. It's completely opposite to everything that we're taught in entrepreneurship, right? Yes, you can just push through. Eventually, you're going to have to look at some of this stuff. You're going to have to feel this through. And at first, it's a slow process as you're going through that, especially if you're paying off years of debt that you haven't dealt with emotions. So when you get through that, then it's much easier, right, to kind of keep it consistent, right? And it's smaller and you can process it faster. Why? Because you've been doing all this work on it and you're dealing with these things. And for myself, I know I had been not dealing with things for quite a while. Even though I had the tools before, how I was dealing with the issues that were going on is I was dealing with them through denial. It's like, this doesn't hurt, I've got work to do, I've got things to do, this isn't bothering me. I'm just going to shake it off, push it away, and I'm just going to keep pushing through. And then eventually things come along that bring you to your knees and kind of go, listen, you need to do this fucking work. You need to start doing the healing. And when you do that, you're like, fine, I don't want to feel this stuff. Why? Because it brings me down. It doesn't make me happy. It doesn't, I don't want to be angry. It's like, well, you have to feel these feelings. You have to get this out. And I'm like, I always try to logic my way out of it. It's like, well, I know if I just get angry, I'm going to end up realizing that I'm being irrational about something, and I just need to cut to the chase and be logical. Hey Dan, good to see you. And that's not how feelings work. Feelings are irrational, but they are a signal to show you something for you to uncover and do that work and kind of get through that. And when you do, it's good. Feeling those feelings, though, especially when they're not the happy, fun feelings, right? The angry feelings, the sad feelings, the depressed feelings. The feelings that come up when you're having flashbacks of the time that you were being abused. It's like, it's appropriate to feel those feelings. Although somebody from the outside looking in, they don't see what you're going through. They don't see that you're processing memories from the past and you're trying to work through those and you are trying to understand what the connection is. Why is this coming up? Why are these feelings coming up? And doing that digging work and really understanding what's going on behind them is what ends up feeling exhausting. We think that we're not doing any work when we actually are doing a lot of work. We're processing old emotions, and that can feel really, really draining. And it's important to be able to work through that stuff. And the more that you can do that, so if you guys are younger, when you can do this when you're young and you can go through and process that stuff, it is much easier, right? A lot of times we end up going through, and I did a lot of work in my 20s up until I was around 32. And then I thought I was good. Oh, I'm good. Married now, everything's fine, I don't need all this stuff. And I started ignoring some of the signs. And I started using denial as a way to cope because, well, I've got everything that I want, I should just be happy, right? And I must be being unreasonable. I don't really need to deal with this stuff. And I was lying to myself. Why? Because on some level, I knew if I started to confront some of these things, there would be some changes that I didn't want to happen. And I'm pleased that today I'm willing to address those changes, and I'm willing to um, put myself first, even if that means losing somebody else, because for so long I lost myself, and that's just too valuable to lose again, no matter how much. No matter how much I care for others. And on my worst day, I probably still couldn't be overly, I don't know. Some people would probably say that I'm pretty selfish, but whatever. It's like, I'm getting okay with that. You want to give me that label, that's fine. If that works for you, and I need to be the villain in the story, that's okay. I'm getting okay with that now. And so that's another sign of progress for me. Because before I was always so worried, did I do it right? And especially if you're a people pleaser, when you set those boundaries, it'll, like, I had to process a bunch of fear, even though all I was doing was writing it in a journal, right? And it's like, still had to process a bunch of fear. It's like, oh, what if I do this wrong? What if I've ruined everything? All of those kind of things come up, and having to work your way through that and understand that even when you get through that, having that voice for myself, giving myself that hug in the meditation, saying, I love you. Do you hear me? I freaking love you. Having that kind of level of self-care is really important. And that was a really hard fought battle to be able to get that. And that's worth holding on to. So, because I know without that, I can get extremely unhappy. And so if I had to have a little nap to give myself a hug to get through today so that I could be happy, then that's what I needed to do. And with that, guys, I think we're going to wrap up tonight. If this is your first time joining, you can watch any of the replays on my YouTube channel, which is Coach Tina B 125. I've posted a couple of videos if you want to see. So all of my videos, they have my artwork that is available for purchase. There's links in the comments that you can take a look at if you wanted to support me in that way. That would be amazing. Also, you will see some of the stories that I've shared. So I do abstract paint pours, and that's one of the ways that I deal with that, and I deal with that every day pretty much. There's been a couple of days that I've missed, but no big deal. And I do these as a way to help me stay grounded and stay present, and to tap into that creative side. It gives me something positive to focus on. You don't actually need any art skills to do this. So you don't have to be an artist, but you can do this stuff. And one of the videos that I did post today, it was one of the lives that I did, I think a week or two ago. I finally posted that again, and I was like, I had held off doing that because that is sharing the story of the sexual abuse that I endured from the ages of 4 until 19. And I hadn't posted, it was hard enough just doing it live, and I had been holding off actually posting it on YouTube. So today I created a paint pour. It was in the shape of a heart, and it was called Pouring My Heart Out. So I did that one, and I posted that video on my YouTube channel, so go check that out. You can understand where I was at. And the reason I share this stuff is because oftentimes people look at me and they think, because I've worked so hard at gaining this happiness, and I'm smiling a lot, I'm really bubbly most of the time, and even on my down days, I'm happier than a lot of people. So, but they think that I don't have any problems or that I didn't experience any hardships, and that is not the case. And I've shared some of the things so that maybe somebody else out there that is struggling with the things that I went through and needs some help with that, they might be able to reach out or listen to my YouTube channel, come on the lives, ask questions, those kind of things, because my goal is to be able to help 1 million people heal past trauma, because that in and of itself has been the most valuable thing that I've experienced in my life. It's by far the most important thing, because the effects of abuse from childhood stay with you in multiple different ways, in ways that you can't even imagine. And trust me, I didn't think I was affected. I was always trying to prove that what happened to me didn't affect me. And I did that through compensating through work, how much money I made, how well I was doing, what good grades I got, all of those kind of things were proof that it didn't affect me. The truth is, it did affect me. And going back and being able to see that so that I can actually break the tie that goes with it. Yes, sometimes you can break that tie by doing it through work. Other times, there will be something else that comes up. Like I said, I went through quite a long time, and when I was 32, I'm like, I'm good. I've done all the work. I don't need anything, and here I am, 52, doing the work again. Why? Because I thought I was good, and I stopped doing that kind of work for 20 years. I thought all I needed to do was focus on work and making money and doing all those things, and then everything would be fine, and till it wasn't. And then I had to do a lot of work in the last couple of years. So, guys, with that, I hope you enjoyed this. I am on every night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, on Facebook and TikTok for now. Eventually I'll get to the point where I'm streaming to multiple platforms, but for now, this is the pace I can handle. So I'm doing these two, so meet me here, and you can go watch the replays on my YouTube channel. Okay, guys? Have a great night, and we will talk to you again tomorrow. Bye!